Alright everyone, back with another video. So I got something here from the CBC Watcher over on X, and it's a video of Andrew Scheer. They just put a bunch of quotes, but I'm not going to read that. No one wants to hear me read. We're going to have a look at Andrew Scheer himself talking about this. This video is just a couple minutes long, just over 3 minutes. So we'll get into that. But before we do, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help grow this channel, and I appreciate every single one of you who does that. Let's get into the video, and then we'll talk about it after like usual.
So the Liberals are going to be asking Parliament to approve $500 billion in inflationary spending, and Conservatives just can't support that. This is coming from a government that promised in its throne speech to cap spending growth by 2%. Mark Carney then established a new world record for breaking promises. Just a few minutes later in the House of Commons, he tabled the main estimates, the outlines of the government spending program, which blew past that 2% cap and is reaching an incredible 8%. Mark Carney is actually going to borrow and spend more money than Justin Trudeau.
You heard that, right? And just as I've been predicting for a long time that Carney would be even worse than Justin Trudeau, here he's starting to prove me right. And a lot of you. A lot of you think this, a lot of you have agreed with me and even said it before I said it. Well, he's already off to a pretty good start proving that regard, isn't he? He's already on pace to he's spending more than Justin Trudeau has. When Justin Trudeau first got in office, he's already spending more money. Great job, Mark.
In addition to breaking through that 2% spending cap promise, he's also increasing the amount of money that taxpayers have to spend on hiring consultants for government departments. He's increasing the budget for outsized, high-priced consultants by 36%, or $7 billion. That works out to about $1,400 per Canadian family will go from hardworking Canadians right to the pockets of high-priced consultants. We just simply cannot support this level of irresponsible spending. This is coming at a time when there are all kinds of troubling economic news, when more and more Canadian families are falling deeper into debt. Food bank usage continues to rise. Many workers are worried about their jobs, and the government can't even explain the rationale for all this spending because they refuse to table a budget. So Conservatives will be voting against the government's main estimates next week because we just simply cannot endorse such an irresponsible spending plan that makes Justin Trudeau look like a sound financial manager. That's what Mark Carney has done to the...
Yeah, and then that's the scary part. Kevin O'Leary said it best just a few months ago when he was talking about Justin Trudeau not being a good enough of a financial manager to manage a 7-Eleven, and he's right. And Carney, the globalist banker, well, he's a banker, he's going to be way better than, well, not so far.
Liberal Party. So I'm happy to take your questions, but I'm basically here just to announce that Conservatives will be voting against the Liberal spending bills next week.
Which, by the way, as I've learned from Northern Perspective, that any bill that the Liberals put forward that involves spending money is essentially a vote of non-confidence. Now, here's the problem. The Conservatives will definitely vote against it, but the Bloc and the NDP, they'll get enough votes from those two parties to make it pass. So, no, we're not going to have an election, and trust me, right now, we don't want one yet. You don't want another election in October, and that way Canadians who haven't seen Mark Carney get exposed yet will go, oh, I'll just vote for him again. It's going to take a little bit of time for Canadians to realize. I don't mean like far-left liberals. I mean people who are swing voters, right? Michelle Ferrari told the story about how she was door knocking, and she had some people who were like former volunteers, so she called them to like help them campaign. And people who are staunchly conservative, who love Michelle Ferrari in Peterborough, said, I'm sorry, Michelle, I can't do it. I can't support you. I have to vote for Mark Carney because I think he's the best guy to deal with Trump. That's going to take time for people to realize that, that we need to come back to the Conservatives. But they will be coming back. It's just how much damage is going to be done before they do, and that's the real question.
Slowing down and people are losing their jobs. Is now the time to cut spending?
Now is the time to tackle inflation. Now is the time for the government to become more responsible with taxpayers' money, to stop borrowing money. All that government borrowing puts pressure on interest rates. When the government is borrowing billions and billions of dollars, when mortgage holders go to renew their mortgage, they now have to compete against the government for lending. the government could actually do much, much more to address the economic concerns that are facing the country by reducing that spending growth, by reducing the amount of money it borrows, and allowing the free market and the economy to grow instead of burdening it with higher taxes and higher regulations. I just want to say one final thing on the budget. Just a few months ago, Chrystia Freeland resigned in protest over Justin Trudeau's deficit. She basically threw a grenade into the Liberal caucus and quit because she could not go along with such irresponsible borrowing and spending. And now she sits around the cabinet table and is about to vote in favor of a spending plan that goes even further.
She didn't have a problem with the spending. Now, of course, Andrew Scheer's going to say that because it makes Chrystia Freeland look bad. Every time she opens her mouth, she looks bad. But either way, Chrystia Freeland resigned for the same reason that Sean Fraser and Anita Anand resigned, or at least temporarily resigned, said they weren't going to run again because they knew they were going to get blown out of the water with Trudeau at the helm. Then he left, and Anita Anand's, never mind, I'm coming back. Sean Fraser, who retired, or resigned rather, because he wanted to spend more time with his family, decided his family wasn't so important anymore once Mark Carney was voted in as Prime Minister. So let's be honest here. It was a sinking ship. They were leaving, and then because they patched up the ship with a bunch of patch holes, basically just a bunch of patch jobs, they came back because now they got another chance to ruin the country, and that's what they want. They didn't leave because they were just upset with Justin Trudeau's spending. They were looking at the polls and they knew they were going to get destroyed, and half of them were going to lose their seats. But two things changed that: Mark Carney being put in as Prime Minister and the Trump tariffs, not to mention the media and Mark Carney's non-stop fear-mongering.
Into debt. It plunges Canada even further into debt and deficits than Justin Trudeau was planning on. So a great question would be for Chrystia Freeland, if she was willing to quit and resign in protest just a few months ago over such a big deficit, how is she going to vote next week on the government's estimates? Thanks very much.
Thank you. And see, that's why Andrew Scheer's doing this, because he's going to expose Chrystia Freeland, and hopefully a lot of people will see this and go, they're spending just like Trudeau, making the same promises as Trudeau, pretty much the same cabinet as Trudeau. It's like, okay, now with Trudeau, and that's why conservatives keep talking about Trudeau. A lot of conservative voters don't like that they keep mentioning Trudeau, but they I think their strategy is to say, hey, remember Canadians, remember how much you turned on Justin Trudeau? This guy's worse. So I think they're just bringing it up just to make that comparison to make people realize. And as soon as people start realizing that, you're going to see a flip in the polls. And by that time, the NDP will likely be strong, or at least I don't know if it'll be strong, but they'll be stronger. And the Bloc will probably not be very happy. I mean, that's when you can really start to see the possibility of an election coming. And for those people who think, well, the Liberals are just going to play their same dirty tricks, they don't have anyone else to put in as Prime Minister. That's why they got Mark Carney in the first place, because if Chrystia Freeland was popular, she would have been the one who replaced Trudeau. But none of them were popular, and they showed polls. I think that Chrystia Freeland was the most popular at like 13%. But none of the Liberals were pretty much done with a lot of them, and then Mark Carney came in and re-energized the party and made a bunch of fake promises and fear-mongered, and it worked. They threw a Hail Mary, and it worked. It's not going to happen again. Especially with the NDP, they're going to gain back some of their votes, and a majority is going to come from the Liberals. But we'll have to see. When does this happen? I mean, again, I predicted within 2 years. Some people think 6 months or a year. We'll have to see. But, I mean, hopefully the sooner the better. Hopefully Canadians start to wake up. But, again, we'll have to see. Either way, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know what you think. Please don't be shy. Please also don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help grow the channel. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back shortly with a new one.